You own what everyone says are the good dividend ETFs. Maybe it's SCHD with that attractive 3.8% yield. Or VIG for the dividend growth angle. Perhaps you've got DGRO or VYM in there too. Solid funds, low expense ratios, quality holdings. So why does your portfolio feel like it's running in place while everyone else seems to be building generational wealth? Here's what nobody tells you. Owning the right ETFs is only half the equation. The other half? Avoiding the silent mistakes that quietly drain your returns year after year. And I'm not talking about obvious errors. I'm talking about the hidden stuff. The portfolio decisions that look smart on paper but cost you tens of thousands over time. Quick disclaimer. I'm not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Today, I'm breaking down 7 mistakes that keep dividend portfolios small, even when you're holding quality funds. Some of these might sting a little. That's okay. The goal here isn't to make you feel bad. It's to help you actually fix these problems before they compound against you for another decade. Mistake number 1. Chasing yield instead of total return. This one gets people every time. You see VYM offering a 2.4% yield and SCHD offering 3.8%, and the math seems obvious. Go with the higher number. But here's what that thinking misses entirely. DGRO only yields about 2.1%. Looks underwhelming compared to SCHD, right? But over the past 10 years, DGRO has delivered an annualized total return of approximately 13%. VYM sits around 11.3% for the same period. That difference doesn't sound massive until you run the numbers on a $100,000 portfolio over 15 years. We're talking about a gap of potentially $60,000 to $80,000. The yield you see today is just one piece of the investment portfolio puzzle. Price appreciation matters. Dividend growth rate matters. Harry learned this the hard way after spending 3 years focused exclusively on current yield. When he finally compared his total returns to a dividend growth-focused approach, he realized he'd been leaving money on the table the entire time. The solution isn't to ignore yield completely. It's to evaluate ETFs based on total return potential, not just the income number that shows up in your brokerage app. Mistake number 2. Ignoring how expense ratios actually compound. You might think the difference between a 0.06% expense ratio and a 0.2% expense ratio is basically nothing. 4 cents versus 20 cents on every $100. Who cares? You should care. Here's why. On a $100,000 retirement portfolio earning 8% annually, that seemingly tiny difference grows to approximately $15,000 over 20 years. Not because the fee itself is large, but because those fees reduce the amount that compounds year after year. It's death by 1,000 cuts. The good news? SCHD, DGRO, VIG, and VYM all charge between 0.05 and 0.08%. They've essentially eliminated this problem for you. But if you're holding actively managed dividend funds, or if you've got older mutual fund versions of similar strategies, you might be bleeding money without realizing it. Check every fund in your portfolio. If anything charges more than 0.2%, make sure the performance justifies it. Spoiler, it usually doesn't. Mistake number 3. Unintentional sector concentration. You feel diversified because you own 4 different dividend ETFs. But have you actually looked at what's inside them? VIG's largest sector allocation is technology at nearly 30%, with financials at 21% and healthcare at 15%. DGRO also has heavy financial services exposure. VYM tilts toward financials at 21% plus industrials. SCHD, after its 2025 reconstitution, now has 19% in energy, its largest sector. See the problem? If you own all 4 funds thinking you're diversified, you might actually have massive overlap in financials and concentrated bets in specific sectors. Broadcom appears as a top holding in multiple funds. JP Morgan shows up everywhere. You think you're spread across 4 funds, but you're really just buying the same 50 companies 4 times with slightly different weightings. Pull up the holdings of every dividend ETF you own. Look for overlap. If the same company appears in your top 20 holdings across multiple funds, you're not as diversified as you think, and you're definitely paying more in total expenses than you need to. Mistake number 4. Drip delays working against you. Most people set up dividend reinvestment and forget about it. Great for automation, not always great for returns. When ETFs pay dividends, there's typically a 4 to 8 business day gap between the ex-dividend date and when shares actually get reinvested. During that time, your dividend sits in cash earning nothing while the market potentially moves higher. In a rising market, this drip drag means you're consistently buying shares at slightly higher prices than if reinvestment happened instantly. Over a 30-year wealth-building horizon, this friction adds up. The fix isn't complicated. Some investors accumulate dividends quarterly and manually invest during market pullbacks, rather than automatically reinvesting at whatever price happens to exist when the DRIP executes. Others accept the delay as a reasonable trade-off for automation. But at minimum, you should understand this is happening and make a conscious choice about it. Mistake number 5. Tax inefficiency in the wrong accounts. This one costs people more than almost any other mistake on this list. VYM's dividends are mostly qualified, taxed at 0 to 20% depending on your income bracket. Same with VIG and DGRO. But if you're holding any REITs, MLPs, or high-yield bond funds in your taxable brokerage account, those distributions often get taxed as ordinary income, potentially at 37% for high earners. Harry kept his dividend ETFs in his taxable account and his growth funds in his Roth IRA. Seemed logical. Dividends provide income now, growth compounds for later. But he had it exactly backwards. The optimal approach for most investors is putting tax-inefficient holdings like REITs and bonds in tax-advantaged accounts where distributions aren't taxed annually. Your qualified dividend ETFs can sit in taxable accounts where they'll receive preferential tax treatment. This single change, asset location rather than just asset allocation, can add thousands to your after-tax retirement savings over time. Mistake number 6. Overdiversification into mediocrity. More isn't always better. I've reviewed portfolios where people own 7 or 8 different dividend ETFs, convinced that maximum diversification means maximum safety. Here's the reality. SCHD holds about 100 stocks. VIG holds around 340. VYM holds over 560. DGRO sits around 400. If you own all 4, you're not holding 2,000 different companies. You're holding maybe 800 unique positions with massive overlap, paying 4 different expense ratios, and creating a portfolio that essentially tracks a blended dividend index. You could probably replicate with 2 funds. The academic research is clear. Most diversification benefits disappear after about 30 to 50 uncorrelated holdings. Beyond that point, you're just adding complexity without meaningful risk reduction. Pick 2 dividend ETFs maximum that serve different purposes, maybe VIG for dividend growth and SCHD for current yield, or DGRO for quality growth and VYM for high income. Then stop. Adding more doesn't make you safer, it just makes your portfolio harder to manage and understand. Mistake number 7. Mismatching income focus to your time horizon. This is the mistake I see most often with younger investors building passive income streams. They optimize for current dividend income when they should be optimizing for total return and dividend growth. Consider the math. VIG yields about 1.6%, but has delivered roughly 13% annualized total returns over 10 years. SCHD yields 3.8% with total returns, closer to 11% annualized during certain periods. If you're 35 and won't touch this money for 25 years, which approach actually builds more wealth? The higher total return wins, even though it produces less income today. You can always shift toward higher-yielding funds as you approach retirement. But compounding works on total return, not just yield. Harry spent his early 30s maximizing dividend income because the deposits hitting his account felt satisfying, tangible, real. By 40, he realized his portfolio had grown slower than a simple total return approach would have delivered. The income felt good in the short term, but the compound interest worked against him in the long term. Match your strategy to your timeline. If retirement is 20+ years away, prioritize total return and dividend growth. If retirement is 5 years away, then yes, Start shifting toward funds that maximize current income. Here's what separates portfolios that actually grow from ones that stay stuck. It's not just the ETFs you choose, though VE, DGRO, SCHD, and VYM are all quality options for different objectives. It's eliminating the invisible friction that drains returns year after year. Audit your current holdings for sector overlap. Calculate your true all-in expense ratio. Review which accounts hold which assets for tax efficiency. Question whether your income focus matches your actual timeline. The investors who build real financial independence through dividends aren't the ones chasing the highest yield or owning the most funds. They're the ones who eliminate every source of unnecessary drag and let compounding do what it does best, work in their favor instead of against them. If you want to see how these ETFs actually compare head-to-head in a detailed performance breakdown, that video is right here. And if you've made any of these mistakes yourself, drop a comment letting me know which one hit hardest. I read every single response.